All right. All right. Hey, everybody. How y'all doing? All right. We're going to wait on some people to jump in. Tough Topic Tuesday. I know a lot of y'all like Tough Topic Tuesday, so we're going to see. All right. We're going to see who jump on in today. Bring your topics. Bring your tough topics. Tough Topic Tuesday. Random topics. Taking random topics. Tough Topic Tuesday. How we doing? Taking random topics for Tough Topic Tuesday. Give me yours. Give me yours. What do y'all want to talk about today? All right, we're taking random topics. Got a lot of different things that we can talk about. I hope y'all tuned in and watched my live from yesterday. It was a really good discussion. I've been getting a lot of great feedback on that one. So very thankful for those of you who tuned in and commented and just shared your opinions on the topic from yesterday. It was really motivating. I heard to a lot of people and just gave people some confirmation on a few things. So really thankful on that. I'm glad that you were able to get some things from it. So yeah, tough topic Tuesday. Tough Topic Tuesday, taking random topics. Give me something to talk about. What is it that you want to talk about? Give me a tough topic. It could be just about anything, really. It could be work. It could be dealing with somebody at work. It could be relationships. It could be a sibling relationship. It could be your best friend. It could be some of anything. Tough topic. Give me your topic, and I'll give you my feedback. Tell you how to deal with it. I definitely wanted to spend some time talking about just handling different discussions in relationships. I had a client of mine that we were talking on some difficulties in relationships, and it's really hard to navigate through discussions when there are underlying things that are present in actions, behaviors, emotions, but not verbally stated. And this particular client was dealing with something of that nature, something that was being shown, and it was a blow up, an explosive blow up in the relationship. And there was no clue as to what this really was centered around. And I think I've talked about this before, but we can definitely spend a little bit of time on it now. Tough Topics Tuesday, we can talk about the fact that, okay, social media and relationships. Oh, that's a good one. We'll spend some time on that one in just a second. That's a really good one. Social media and relationships. So we're about to jump to that one. But and this can actually, I guess, tie into that topic a little bit, what I'm talking about now. So if there are things that are underlying in a relationship and maybe you aren't verbalizing to your partner, and I hear a lot of times people expect people to pick up on social clues and saying things like they should know how I'm feeling, right? And that's very false, and that's a very difficult and dangerous course of action to take in a relationship, because if you operate under such a pretense and a presumption that your partner should know what it is that you're feeling without you having verbalized what that is, you're at bigger fault in that particular issue, because you haven't clearly articulated what it is that you're feeling. And maybe it's because you haven't even identified what it is. So when we're talking about tough topics, right, some of that oftentimes is, again, and I'm big on accountability, big on accountability, and that'll kind of carry over into this social media and relationships topic. It's because we have to be accountable within ourselves, right? So if you know that you haven't verbalized something to your partner, then truthfully speaking, you're at fault in that, because you should be verbalizing that. Now, again, however they may choose to respond to that after the fact, then that's on them, right? But you have to have effective, honest, open communication in relationships. And I really have to hit on those 3 points: effective, open, and honest, because a lot of times people think that honest communication is open communication. That's very false. They aren't the same. Open communication is being openly expressive, right? To not hold anything back. That is productive. To be open with your emotions, to be open with your thoughts, and trusting your partner to be able to handle those things, appreciate those things. whether they agree with them or not, right? So having the ability to be open in relationships. Now, honesty, right? Honesty comes in the sense that it is not, something that's maladaptive to the relationship, that is unproductive in the relationship, but rather something that is, productive or constructive to the growth of the relationship. And it's honest, right? So by nature it is honest. By definition it is honest communication, right? So even if you're asked something in the relationship, your feedback, your input, whatever it may be, is actually honest feedback. It's not something that is deceptive through omission, because holding things back are also, that's actually deceptive, and that's actually dishonest in relationships. Because a lot of people say, well, I didn't say, that I didn't do it, right? But that doesn't make it right. That's still honest dishonesty. That's dishonesty by omission, right? So not saying something, right, does not make it good. It doesn't make it true, or it doesn't make it like it never happened, right? So dishonesty by omission is in fact the thing, and that is not productive, right, to a relationship. It's actually counterproductive, because if your partner were to ever find out, then you'd have a bigger issue on your hands. So just remembering those things. Now let's get to it. I got social media and relationships. All right, so all of those things that we just talked about, right? Open, honest communication in relationships, and then voicing a feeling or concern about something, right? Now, I will say, I'll give a generalized, I guess, perspective on social media and relationships, and then I'll ask more specifically as to, I guess, maybe what is the particular tough topic issue in regards to this, because usually and oftentimes when we deal with social media and relationships, there's something very specific, just by nature of social media, right, to involve social media and relationships. So if you want to, you could go ahead and actually type that in the comment section. I'll touch on that in just a second, as to what the specific issue is in regards to social media and the relationship. But so just as a generalized perspective, right, a generalized input, social media and relationships, I think first and foremost, there has to be honesty, right? Open communication. One of the things that I would suggest starting off when you enter into a relationship is kind of figure out what that person's perspective is on social media and relationships, right? How often are they, engaging in social media? What are they using their social media for? Right. What are some of their thoughts as to what that looks like in the relationship? Is that something that you guys will share together? Is that something that you guys, and what I mean by share together right now, I'm talking about, is that something that, you guys will be interactive with one another about? I see a lot of couples where they may show, their mate, their partner, their spouse, their phones, and ask them to look at something on social media, or they may send them things on, via social media. So what does that look like for you? Are you guys going to be following each other, right? Or friends with each other, if we're talking about Facebook or, whatever platform we're using, right? So are we following, subscribing, whatever it is, one another? So establishing a guidelines and boundaries as to for what that looks like is really, really important. And these are discussions I recommend, as with many things in relationships, you should be having very early on, hearing a person's perspective on social media. Knowing what social medias they have, right? That's one of the bigger things also, that really, I remember I was talking about like dishonesty by omission. Just because you don't say something, it doesn't make it in fact honest or okay. So knowing what all social media platforms that person is on, I think is also very, very productive to have early on in the relationship, because it eliminates some of that argumentative discussion that can and will happen later on, right? And even the most secure people will have, I found, particular issues surrounding social media. So that is something that is very common, in fact, in terms of relationships, and it's something that, typically speaking, I think is oftentimes pretty justified in terms of social media and relationships, because you have right, like exactly, interactions with exes on social media. So these are the reasons as to why and how these things can become a problem, because it's not always the person per se. And the reason why I say per se and emphasize on that is because then there comes a time, a place, an effort or lack thereof where that person has to have, remember, we're back to is accountability, right? Accountability for those interactions and how that may manifest itself into your reality and your relationship. So if you don't want that to be an issue in your relationship, again, these are conversations and discussions that I would suggest someone having very early on in the relationship as to what those boundaries are, what those perspectives are, what is their ideology on social media and relationships. So how much time do you spend on social media? That's another big factor, right? And also friends, right? Friends who they're interacting with, or friends or subscribing to or following or whatever, right? Which brings me to a bigger and more touchy subject, right? Tough Topic Tuesday. Do I have access to your social media? Do I have access to your social media? Tell me, what are you guys' thoughts on that one? I really want to hear, because we may need a part 2 with this one. I think this one is really, really a touchy subject. Do I have access to your social media? Do I have access to your social media? So what are their thoughts on that, right? And then what are your thoughts on that? Is that a hard no-go? Remember, I always talk about non-negotiables, right? Okay, no access. So if there are interactions with exes on social media, and obviously there's some kind of way that you found out obviously about these interactions. I'm assuming that it was, thank you for joining. We're talking about social media and relationships right now. Tough Topic Tuesday. Thank you for joining. Make sure that y'all hit that YouTube link in the Instagram bio and go and follow, like, and subscribe on that YouTube channel as well. YouTube, go and follow that Instagram, mentality_counseling on Instagram. So really, again, these are very, very important things that you should be bringing up very early on. So access, that will be another thing, because if this is a no-go for you, right? If this is a no-go for you to not have access to that, you don't want to get, 6 months to a year, 2 years or more in that relationship without having access to the social media, if that's a no-go for you, right? Now, the other component to that is is that a hard fast no for them, right? So if your partner is like, no, that's a no-go for me, you can't and never will, right? Never. There's an absolute term. You cannot now or ever have access to my social media in the future, right? No matter what the circumstance, then you've got to decide, see, at that point, is that a deal breaker for you in that relationship? Or what does that look like if it's not necessarily a deal breaker for you? Again, what are the boundaries, right, surrounding social media? Like, what does that look like, right? How much time are we talking? When is there no social media, right, in a relationship? If we're sitting down on the couch and we're watching a movie, is that a no social media zone, right? And then so let's take it a step further, because we talked about interactions with exes on social media. All right. So this is where it gets sticky, because what are those interactions like, right? What's being said? What's being done? How is that being interacted or engaged with, right? How is your mate, your spouse or whatever, interacting with the ex on social media? So see, again, these are all very, very important factors and components, because we can talk in a generalized perspective, but then if we talking specifically, right, if those interactions are involving sexual advances, or maybe they're not that graphic or explicit, maybe they are just terms of endearment, even, because that's another big thing. If they're terms of endearment, and whether or not these things are public or private, and there's a big difference there. If they're public, there's then the aspect of shame, betrayal, frustration, anger, Embarrassment, big one, embarrassment, right? So the aftermath of that, right? So people who know that you're in a relationship with that person, right? They're seeing these things publicly on that person's page. Then there's the private part of this, right? So then there's notice or evidence discovered, right? That person has been privately messaging your spouse or your significant other, right? Then there's a level of secrecy that has been taking place there. And then as to what those messages may contain, right? So then this is back to the access component, right? So if I have access to these things, right? If I have access to these things, then am I looking for these things, right? And if I'm finding these things, am I addressing them? So if you're finding these things, if you do in fact have that access, right, which you said you don't, in this particular situation, which I'm sure brings about certain other components of frustration or issues in the relationship surrounding that particular component of the no access. So if you don't have access to your significant other's social media, then that again just kind of compiles on the fact. So then we go to the next point: removal of the problem, right? Removal of the problem. Now, a lot of people will take into action, well, I'll just eliminate the social media, right? I've heard this before. I've dealt with this before with clients. I've dealt with this before with discussions with friends. And so if that person is so quick to be like, all right, well, I'll just remove the whole social media, right? Then we got a little bit of a bigger problem. We got a little bit of a bigger problem there, because is it less about the importance, the loyalty, the dedication, the significance of our relationship versus, right? Versus you not wanting to make someone else unhappy, right? You not wanting to deal with the problem even, because it may not even be that. Maybe you don't want to deal with the problem, right? You can't address the problem, right? For whatever aftermath that may come as a result of that, as opposed to you just wanting to end the whole social media, right? Because this does in fact happen. And I'm sure some of you probably dealt with this before yourselves. So if the person is like, well, I'll just get rid of it all, right? I'll just get rid of it all. This is silly. I don't want to argue about this. I want to talk about this. Then see, we've got a little bit of a bigger issue. Now, kind of got to throw, right, some accountability. Are you talking to your partner about these things? And are you doing so in an effective manner, right? Leaving the door open, because I do, right. And that's exactly why that's important, because if you don't close that door and address that specific issue, not getting rid of the entire social media, addressing that issue, addressing that person, removing that person from the social media as an importance to your relationship, as a value to your partner, right? Valuing your partner and the integrity that you have within and the importance of your relationship. Okay, we haven't dealt with the problem. If you just want, I agree, right? If you just delete the whole social media, then right, you haven't at all addressed the problem. That's very true. So dealing with the actual problem, because the bigger issue behind this particular thing is there's a lot of other underlying components to that, and that would be is that the person doesn't want to address conflict, right? So how will that come out and manifest itself in other areas in the relationship? Is that person want to address conflict, or is that person want to avoid? Is that person, want to run away? I think of the Mooski song, right? Track Star. When I'm thinking about things like this, is because that's a lot of what this has to do with, is a person, avoiding, right, an issue. And typically with people who are avoidant, right, not dealing with their emotions, not dealing with their feelings, they have a lot of underlying things usually and typically going on. And what that does is that shows a lack of commitment to resolve. That's a big one. And that's a tough topic a lot of people don't want to deal with and address within themselves. And remember, this is where accountability comes in, because there's a lack of effort to resolve when someone runs away from the issue, when someone wants to just delete the entire social media as opposed to dealing with the problem. Not only does it say to your partner that person's feelings is more important than mine, right, than our relationship, right, but it also says to your partner, right, I'm unwilling to go the distance for you. I'm unwilling to address the difficult situation for us. I don't deal with problems. I run from them. I run from them. Right. So the other comment of leaving the door open, that's another component to that. So let's just say a couple months down the road, right? That person comes back up in the picture. They're like, oh, what happened to you and such and, you and so, right? What happened to y'all? Oh, was it the social media thing? Oh my goodness, he's so, and then that's when all that stuff comes back up. And then guess what? That's a door open. That's a door open, right? Because then it makes them feel validated that you were the problem. They were the ones handling it correctly, right? And right, deflection, exactly, turning things around on you. That's exactly what I'm getting at, right? So when someone responds like that, right? So you have to look for these qualities. Remember, you have to look for these things, and these are the tough questions. These are realities that we have to face in people that we deal with. Is because it might not be easy, right? It might not be easy. But the truth of the matter is that we got to address these things. We got to deal with these things, and we've got to do so early on in the relationship, because if certain qualities are exhibited early on in a relationship or during certain circumstances in the relationship, right, then guess what? We don't want that type of person in our lives, right? Because if deflection, right, if avoidance, if all of the things that we've talked about so far are components of their personality, right? Is that someone that we want to have as a partner? Is that someone that we want to, continue these types of things with? Yeah. Red flags. Yeah. Red flags. Yeah, no doubt. Those are red flags. And right. And these things are what I'm giving you. These things are how you get to red flags in relationships. If a person is exhibiting certain qualities early on in a relationship and they're deflecting, if they're turning things around on you, which is called gaslighting, right? There's a term for that. If someone knows that they're doing wrong, right? Gaslighting is a really, really big issue. Gaslighting is a really, really big issue in relationship. It's where a person makes you feel crazy, right? Essentially, for what you know to be true that they did, right? So much so to the point where I've even seen people defend their partner knowing that it isn't right how they feel about whatever it was that their partner did. That's gaslighting. That's a serious issue, and it's a big and common issue in a lot of relationships. So I really, really think that one of the most significant ways to get to this is asking those tough questions, right? Tough Topic Tuesday. This is the type of stuff we talk about. You ask those things early on in a relationship. You figure out the integrity of that person early on in a relationship. You figure out personality early on in the relationship. I've done things similar to this as on first dates. You ask certain questions to get a sense of who that person is, right? Their characteristics, their personality traits, right? Their upbringing, their background. How do you deal with situations? It reminds me of talking to a client of mine. So we were, it was they were watching some television show, and the lady on the television show had cheated with an ex on the television show, and she didn't tell her boyfriend because she didn't think anything was wrong with it, because they were only, it was like a different type of cheating. I think they like made out or something like that. They kissed or something. It was something. And the guy made a comment, right, that it was wrong. And she should have told the guy about what happened. And his girlfriend said, no, it wasn't. That wasn't wrong, right? So at that moment, it told him a lot about her personality. But like we're talking, see those red flags, someone come. So like, right, the red flags, that was a huge red flag that lets you know how that person perceives that and how they would handle it. So if they were to do the same thing, right, this was early on in this particular relationship, and then later on, right, the runner track star, right, the track star, they're going to leave the relationship, right? And that's typically how they're going to leave. The same components and factors that you avoid, right, the characteristics, the personality traits that you avoid, that's when that gaslighting, all that kind of stuff comes. You're crazy for believing that, right? They make you feel that you're crazy for believing those things. That's gaslighting, right? That's a problem. So oftentimes when that avoidant type of thing, so when we're talking about social media relationships, you got to get down to the problem. You got to press that person, because if those things are a no-go for you, you have to make it clear. You have to communicate those things effectively, and you have to address those things in order for those things to change. And if that person isn't willing to change those things, if those things are on your non-negotiables list, remember we talked about those non-negotiables. You got non-negotiables, you got things that you want to need, and you got things right down the middle that you're willing to compromise on. They may not be necessarily things that you like, but they may not be things that you need, right? Everybody needs to have this list. Everybody needs to have this list of things that they need, right? You require in a relationship, right? You need to have a thing that has a list of non-negotiables, things that I will not tolerate, right? Things that if I see these things, I need to get out. I need to get out fast, right? It's not to say you just immediately do that. You may address those things, and if those things pop up again, you're gone. There may be some things first come, you out of there. But you need to have that non-negotiables list. And then right down the middle, right down the middle, you have some things that you're willing to compromise on, right? Things that you may not necessarily like, but things you don't necessarily need, right? And you're willing to maybe put those things aside for the betterment of the relationship, because that's not a hill you're willing to die on. Because everybody, see, the thing is, in relationships, we have certain hills that you got to be willing to die on. This may be for you, right? In this particular situation with the relationships, the ex on the social media and relationships, this may be a non-negotiable for you. This may be a thing that you're willing to die on this hill, right? It's not to say that it may happen like that, but if it comes to that, this is something you aren't willing to tolerate. This is where not settling comes in. See, because there's a lot of terms you guys know that I feel like are loosely thrown around by pseudo counselors on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, etc., Facebook, wherever the platforms may be. There's a lot of people that throw around certain terms. Narcissist is one that I hear a lot of times. And it's like, don't settle, right? Never settle. Well, you got to add some context behind that, because sometimes your expectations may be unrealistic, right? Sometimes your expectations may be immeasurable. Sometimes your expectations may be something that you aren't, in fact, giving yourself. That's just a fact, right? So I think just throwing out the blanket term of never settling is it's counterproductive to relationships, and it's counterproductive to productivity, and it's counterproductive most effectively and most importantly to effective communication. Effective communication, because you have to communicate things, right? And you have to have accountability and insight to yourself as to whether or not what you're asking or requiring is unreasonable, right? Or maybe it's unreasonable at that particular time and stage in the relationship. So if you're early on with something, some of the things that you may be asking, I mean, it's just not going to happen, right? Because you don't have enough vested in that particular relationship in order to ask and require those things of that person, because you haven't, in fact, invested that much into that relationship as well. So you may not be giving the level, right? It may not be the same exact thing, but you may not be giving and investing to the level at which you require also. Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of times those types of expectations are very unrealistic, and some might disagree with that and say, well, so you telling people to settle? And again, that's not at all what I'm saying. And I think that we need to really, really be careful in using that word, because you may not be eligible for what you're requiring. Let's just say that you may not be eligible for what you're requiring in a relationship, and that could mean a variety of different things and come out in a multifaceted way. So I just really think that settling is a very loosely used term. So you just got to be really, really diligent and inspecting within yourself as to what that may truly mean for you. So when you're in those relationships, you got to really examine yourself. You've got to make that list that I was talking about, needs, right? Non-negotiables, and straight down the middle, what are your compromises? So for you, again, that may be something you're willing to die on that hill. That's a battle I'm willing to fight in a relationship, because that's something that's important to me, because it may in fact lead to other things down the road. It may, again, show you as to how that person deflects or deals with conflict, or lack thereof dealing with conflict, effectiveness in communication, right? Resolving issues. A variety of different ways that actually can come out. Because if someone is willing to delete the entire social media, remember, like, that's somebody who's just really avoidant, doesn't want to deal with the problem, as opposed to dealing with the actual problem in the relationship and looking towards resolve. We always want to look towards resolve when we're talking about relationships. We want to be solution focused. We don't want to add to the problem, right? And that type of response is certainly adding to the problem if we're not dealing with and addressing the issues in the relationship. And again, yes, those are most certainly red flags. So yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I hope I definitely answered your question, or addressed your topic, rather, should I say, and gave you some useful feedback to carry forth in the relationship. Because that is very, very much a sticky thing. And remember, like I said, just set those boundaries. It may involve sitting down and talking, but if that person is unwilling to do that, you can't make someone talk. You can't make someone adhere to those things. You can't make someone even participate in coming up with what those said boundaries may in fact be. I got one couple that I was working with, actually, and this was actually a part of their issue. There had been some previous infidelity actually in that particular relationship. And one of the requirements was because of the understanding, because social media, like my social media, for instance, all my social media is for business, strictly, nothing else. My social media is all strictly for business. So this particular person, their social media was in fact a business page, but that was also because it was personal training involved. So there's a lot of close client contact, etc., physique, all that stuff involved in that. And so that is where some of the infidelity actually occurred. They were actually, or are actually, a married couple. It just basically boiled down to giving a curfew of the social media and adding the significant other to the social media page, as to increase the awareness of the relationship and give some respect and due notice to the relationship. So I don't know if that's your particular issue, or if the person doesn't know that you exist or whatever, but just sitting down, having some discussion surrounding the specific topic, if that's something that is creating even more tension and unwillingness, there is no resolve in that, then you've got to decide, is that a hill you're willing to die on? And if so, you just got to be unrelenting in the fact that you will continue to address it until it's resolved. And then lastly, I would add, is that you've got to decide as to how long you're willing to allow that to go on without resolve. So that would be my feedback to anyone dealing with that issue. That's a very, very good topic. And like I said, I hopefully helped in giving some honest, open, objective feedback to that particular topic. Anybody else? Anybody else has something in terms of Tough Topic Tuesday? I didn't want to sit on here too long, but that was a really good one. I really, really appreciated that discussion and giving that feedback. So yeah, thank you. I'm glad that helped. Any other topics from anyone? Now's the time. Got a tough topic? Let me know. It could be something controversial. It could be something like that. That was a good tough topic. That was a good tough topic, because social media and relationships is very, very, very difficult to navigate, and there's got to be some significant boundaries in terms of social media and some definitive resolution as to what that will look like in a relationship. Yeah. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I really, really, really appreciate everybody. We've been on here long enough, so I'm going to go ahead and get ready to close it out. I really, really appreciate everybody who tuned in. Remember, if you follow me on Instagram at mentality_counseling, make sure that you click the YouTube link in the bio. Go like, subscribe, comment, and hit that notifications bell on the YouTube channel, so that way you'll know when I'm going live. If you are to follow me on YouTube, make sure that you jump over to mentality_counseling on Instagram and follow, engage. I got a lot of things that I post on my story that I do not post, obviously, to YouTube. So definitely make sure that you go and follow. Thank you. You're more than welcome. I really, really appreciated that you got what you needed out of that discussion. I really, really am. So you're most welcome. Thank you for actually commenting and bringing that tough topic in. It's not always easy, but hopefully that encourages more people to do the same. I'm here. That's what I'm here for. I want to be able to give that objective feedback to any and everybody who is willing to share and tune in. And if you're nervous, feel free to DM me, send me a tough topic. That way you can remain anonymous and I will speak on it on a live, so you don't have to actually chime in on the comment section. If you're afraid to do it that route, you can remain anonymous. Give me your tough topics. I'm really, really ready and prepared to speak on it. So yeah, again, thank you everybody. And I'm going to let y'all go. Y'all have a good night. Love y'all. Peace out as always. Enjoy yourself.